Yesterday, the long-awaited Durham Report was released. And to be honest, we didn't learn a whole lot. I mean, we kind of did, but you all knew this. You all knew that powerful forces in the Democratic Party were lying to smear Trump, to frame him as a Russian asset. They had personalities going on TV saying the craziest things imaginable, like Donald Trump may have been a Soviet agent. That's right. Working for the communists going back to the 80s. Jonathan Chait proclaimed on MSNBC. It's insane. And now we're learning more about this. Granted, in the Durham Report, we're not getting any kind of criminal referrals, but we do have the FBI outright admitting to wrongdoing. And then what? Ladies and gentlemen, I had people asking me yesterday with Timcast IRL, why aren't you talking about the Durham Report? And, well, a couple reasons. One, it is hundreds of pages long, so I want to actually go through it, and we're going to have people go through it. But the preliminary news is breaking news. Everything you already knew was true is true, and that's it. The FBI responded by basically saying, yup, we did it. Bye. So then what? What do we get out of this? I don't know. If you go to your liberal family members or friends and say the Durham Report basically confirms what we knew, they're going to say Donald Trump appointed his lackey to do this for him. And how convenient that it's coming out in 2023 as we're gearing up for elections and Donald Trump is running. I don't know what to tell you. We did learn a lot of interesting things, don't get me wrong, but it's not what we're learning basically is the fine details of what they did, but there's not much more you can get out of it. I mean, maybe we'll see. We have this from Fox News. FBI responds to scathing Durham Report on Trump-Russia probe, touts dozens of corrective actions. That's right. They just basically admit it. Here you go. From the FBI National Press Office. Statement on report by Special Counsel John Durham. They say, the conduct in 2016 and 2017 that Special Counsel Durham examined was the reason that current FBI leadership already implemented dozens of corrective actions, which have now been in place for some time. Had those reforms been in place in 2016, the missteps identified in the report could have been prevented. This report reinforces the importance of ensuring the FBI continues to do its work with rigor, objectivity, and professionalism the American people deserve and rightly expect. The FBI is crooked as it comes. That's just the reality. Now, don't get me wrong. There are good people in the FBI that do, your beat work, your general stuff. The FBI does stop bad crimes. They do. Not every person at the FBI is bad. I've actually met some people at the FBI and formerly of the FBI who are actually pretty good. And it's funny when people on IRL chat are like, feds. I'm like, some of these people are like a whistleblower from the FBI recently. There's a lot of people who are just regular people. I was talking to someone who worked in intelligence and I asked them, is inside the intelligence agencies, is it like pro-Democrat, hardcore? And they said it's the same thing inside as it is outside. Conservatives are too scared to speak up, and the left is running roughshod over everybody. Wow. But what they said is there's good people. Most people are probably good people, just like you'd expect in the real world, but they don't want to speak up for the same reasons. They'll lose their job. They'll be shunned. They don't want to be pushed out, and that's the problem. And that's why I often say conservatives had too many cowards among their ranks, people who are unwilling to say outright what needs to be said. So even in these intelligence agencies, what I've heard from those in D.C. and those who work in federal law enforcement, the problem with the FBI is its leadership, the DOJ, and the Washington, D.C. office. That most of the offices around the country actually are kind of pretty good. Not completely. I mean, you still have bad people doing bad things, but just the general work is fine. I'm sure the anarchists and libertarians are like, how dare you, Tim? No, but I mean, like a lot of stories are busting people for violent crimes, kidnappings, just general day-to-day stuff that doesn't move the needle in the news on the news stage. But the problem is at the highest levels, the FBI is weaponized and was weaponized against Donald Trump in what can only be described as a soft coup. Now, of course, there's plausible deniability. They'll say, oh, we never did anything criminal. because they know how to play the game. Hillary Clinton denies any involvement, despite the fact that you have some of these most ridiculous stories. Take a look at this one. PR executive who called Trump a madman was behind false golden showers claims. Durham Report reveals Donald never stayed in Moscow suite at center of salacious story, and how FBI wanted to keep paying Steele dossier source $300,000 after he lied. You see, the game they play is, we didn't do anything wrong. We just knew this guy was lying and kept paying him. I don't think it's an issue of whether or not we can prove criminal culpability. I think it's an issue of taking special action. And I believe these people should be in prison. I think they should be in prison. The argument is that because Durham didn't uncover overt criminal action or something like that, I'm like, dude, sedition. If they can go after a dude for bumbling into the Capitol, they can go after the FBI for paying a guy who lied. Sure. Make all the arguments you want. I argue it is criminal. Let's start with this story about Hillary Clinton. Revealed. Hillary Clinton denied trying to vilify Trump in 2016 by linking him to Moscow in 2022. Interview with John Durham, and said in an interview, any suggestion that she was involved was Russian disinformation. Oh, it was the Russians. Oh, surprise, surprise. Durham said in a report published Monday that the FBI should have done more to look into the Russian intelligence analysis, suggesting that 2016 presidential candidate Hillary Clinton had personally approved a plan to vilify her opponent, Donald Trump, by claiming foreign interference in the election. However, in a footnote in the report published Monday, Durham said Clinton denied trying to vilify then presidential candidate Trump when she sat down with the special counsel team on May 11, 2022. During the interview, Clinton stated to Durham's attorneys that it's really sad, but that she understood why they had to continue to ask the questions. I get it. You have to go down every rabbit hole, she said. According to Durham, Clinton responded during the interview when asked to address declassified information by then DNI Ratcliffe about her alleged plan to stir up a scandal between Trump and Russians. She said, quote, "It looked like Russian disinformation to me. They're very good at it, you know," Clinton responded. Lock these people up. They're criminals. Donald Trump, I swear, if you get elected and you don't, sick the DOJ on all of the corrupt individuals. I swear. That's it. That's it. I swear. I will say curse words. I will have no faith. I have almost no faith left in this country. I have faith in its ideals, its values, the visions of the founding father. But are you kidding me? Hillary Clinton's response to all of the malfeasance is, it was the Russians who did it. This lady is psychotic. Psychotic. Clinton advised that she had a lot of plans to win the campaign, and anything that came into the public domain was available to her. That's right. Anything in the public domain. So she lied. She is a cackling fiend, a psychotic, desperate woman, and she is a miserable failure. And if there's one thing that allows me to smile before bed, knowing about all the evil things these people do, it's that Hillary Clinton failed. She is historically one of the biggest failures. Oh, it feels so good to say, Hillary Clinton, you failure. You failed. You know what's funny? For all the negative things they say about Trump, he was president. What can I say about you, Hillary? You were never president. You're nothing, Senator. I mean, it's good. Congratulations, I guess. Secretary of State, failed presidential candidate. Everything you did ultimately amounted to nothing but whinging like some cackling witch. Whinge, 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 whinge. That's you are, whinging Clinton. The report also states that several other former members of the Clinton campaign were interviewed regarding the plan that Clinton had approved. Those individuals included Podesta and Jake Sullivan. Despite the government's handling of the Clinton plan, intelligence amounted to a significant intelligence failure and a troubling insistence of confirmation bias leading to tunnel vision pursuit. It did not amount to a provable criminal offense, Durham concluded. Durham also found that claims about Clinton's attempts to smear Trump received less scrutiny than allegations about her opponent, even though they were serious enough to be taken to President Barack Obama and Vice President Joe Biden. Durham admitted that the claims were not corroborated or verified, but compares it with the now discredited Steele dossier outlining Trump's ties to Moscow, which formed the basis of further investigations. For example, an FBI intelligence analyst stated that he could not recall anything that the FBI did to analyze or otherwise consider the Clinton plan intelligence, stating that it was just one data point. This stands in sharp contrast to its substantial reliance on the uncorroborated Steele reports, which at least some FBI personnel appeared to know was likely being funded or promoted by the Clinton campaign. You see the game they played? They say, well, we didn't do anything wrong, because what they do is they compartmentalize. You get one guy to do so. Here's what you do. It's like this would be a great movie about a bank heist. A guy walks in and then he drops a cell phone. Whoops. And then another guy walks over and picks the cell phone up and then carries it to the back, to the back and says, I found this cell phone, which then goes off, sending a signal to a man who just so happened to have some other device. The point is, one by one, an individual action is taken by people who seemingly don't know each other. And then the money is stolen. It ends with someone accidentally forgetting to lock the back of the armored truck and the cash falls out. Some guy walks over, picks it up, shrugs, looks at a truck and says, did you drop this? And then puts it in the truck and shrugs and then walks away. Then the truck leaves, carrying away the millions of dollars. And guess what? Not a single person did anything criminal. That's what they're trying to say. That actually would be a pretty fun movie, right? Like there's a truck, armored truck, money falls off the armored truck, and a guy looks at the bag and he goes, excuse me, did this fall off your truck? As anybody? I think it fell off the truck. Places it there. Then a guy gets in his truck and leaves. And then if it ever comes down to the FBI investigating, they'll say, well, look, nobody actually committed any crimes. They all know each other and they all talk on a regular basis. But you see, what happened was the first guy who walked in, he bumped into the guard who dropped his keys. And then the other guy thought the keys belonged to some guy, so he gave the keys to the other guy. Then when the armored truck was going, the guy didn't realize it wasn't locked. Nobody did anything criminal. You get my point. All of these individuals did just enough to make the machine turn without any individual being able to be criminally prosecuted because of it. And that's the game they played. And that's the game they continue to play. And that's where we are now. I love this one, the framing from the media. Durham finds fault with FBI over Russia inquiry. Well, yeah, and they admitted to it. Is anyone going to be held responsible? Right now, here's what they say. The special counsel's final report, nevertheless, did not produce blockbuster revelations of politically motivated misconduct, as Donald J. Trump and his allies had suggested it would. Let me tell you a story, my friends, or let me make a point. If you accidentally burn down a building, you get in trouble. Yeah, you do. If you accidentally run someone over, you get in trouble. You do. Sometimes not criminally, but typically civilly, right? So right now we have the story of Daniel Penny, and they're saying even if he beats the criminal charges in New York, he may be sued civilly. Kyle Rittenhouse is being sued civilly, and he's having a hard time fighting back. So now we take a look at this. Okay, we find fault over all of this. If it is true that Hillary Clinton was wrong and she was spreading wrong things, false information, civil lawsuits, because someone is still responsible for the damage that was reaped over this country. I hope Trump sues all of these people into oblivion, and with the Durham Report, has grounds to actually win. In the meantime, however, ABC News says after 4-year probe, Durham Report slams FBI for actions in 2016 Russia investigation. Dude, it's been 7 years. 7 years since this started. It took 4 years to conclude the Durham Report, and we get nothing. We knew all of this. So what do we have left? I don't think we have a country, to be completely honest. The border is open. Millions of people are pouring through. The economy is collapsing. The M2 money stock is collapsing. I saw one video earlier. They said that this has not happened since the Great Depression. Get ready. Hold on to your belts. It's going to get wild. Our government is crooked. Our law enforcement corrupt. And we all know it. So what is left? This is not to be black-pilled. It's to say these things are all happening. Whatever you take from it, you take from it. I am just telling you they are happening. And they spell one thing. You have no borders. You have no federal government. You have no law enforcement apparatus. You have widespread corruption. There is nothing left. Just a husk. of what once was. It can be saved. The fires of passion can be reignited in this country. But what I see is the media is corrupt. Our politicians are corrupt. People are basically stealing the fine china from the Titanic as the ship sinks, instead of trying to bail water to upright the ship. New York Magazine, I love this one. John Durham failed because the Russiagate conspiracy never happened. Trump's answer to Robert Mueller was a total faceplant, by Jonathan Chait. This guy went on MSNBC and said Trump may be a Soviet agent. Okay, you know the Soviet Union dissolved, right? That's right. He said Trump could have been working with the Russians since the 80s, which, you know, Russia was the Soviet Union back then, or part of. That's what he claimed. Now he's writing this. And so here we are. This one tweet is going viral from Political Sock, a Texas lawyer. He said, I was so disgusted by the January 6th riot that I deleted my Twitter account. I wrote introspective pieces on waiting to be part of the solution. I never liked Trump. The Durham Report is 100 times worse than January 6th. It didn't reveal a handful of nuts getting out of hand and stealing a lectern. It revealed our highest law enforcement agency trying to undo an election on zero evidence. It didn't disrupt a formal nomination proceeding for 3 hours. It disrupted a presidency for 3 years. Yeah. And that's the important takeaway. You want to say there was no criminal activity? Okay. You still have the fact that the FBI tried to undo a duly elected presidential administration with no evidence. That's it. The FBI, whether intentionally or not, I don't care, was seeking to subvert the United States of America. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Ignorance is no excuse for breaking the law. Will anything be done? Probably not. Will anyone be held accountable? No. That's why I say this country is done. Do what you will with that information. That is not me saying the end is nigh. I'm saying, like, how can you look at this and conclude anything else? The FBI was actively trying to destroy this country and probably still are. Take a look at what happened with January 6th. Another indication this country is done. Where was law enforcement? Either they let the people do this or they were incompetent and incapable. And a bunch of people stormed into the Capitol building. So that's all that matters. Call it whatever you want. Call it whatever you will. The border is open. There's no border. There's no law enforcement. You get arrested on the whim of special interests. It is factions using the institutions of power for personal gain. And there are numerous factions and they're all fighting and they're all stealing. And sure, in the meantime, we can enjoy a nice steak dinner. But let me make something clear for all of you guys. Many of you who watch my videos know this already. And for those that don't, I'll explain. I encourage anybody to look at the history of civil war, conflict, and crisis. When Syria was embroiled in civil war and sarin gas attacks had struck in urban centers, nightclubs were still happening. People were still partying. Drinks were still being had. Cars were still driving. Food was still being delivered. And you could look at videos out of Damascus, and you didn't even know Aleppo was in ruins if you just watched these videos. The Syrian Tourism Board was still encouraging people to come party at their nightclubs. When I was in Egypt, while people are in Tahrir Square and a revolution was underway and the president was being removed, 2 blocks away at McDonald's. Everyone gets mad when I call it McDonald's. It's a slang term for it's McDonald's, I know. There was a guy eating a cheeseburger, watching soccer. They call it football, I know. At the Hilton, there's a casino. Egyptians aren't allowed inside. I went into the Hilton in Egypt. And I went into the casino and there are people playing cards. And I just thought it was absolutely fascinating. It says you can't outside, Egyptian citizens are not allowed inside because gambling's forbidden. And I'm like, there's a revolution outside. These people were just, they didn't care. What are you doing here? It's crazy to see. People think that when a country is falling apart, when there's a revolution, when there's a civil war, that everyone's shooting each other in the streets. And that is not the case. Typically, when there's a revolution, regular people carry on doing regular things, which is why I find so much of what's happening so fascinating. that when I talk about civil war in this country, civil unrest, riots, revolutions, people say it's not going to happen. And I'm just like, you know what's probably different between my perception, my perspective, and yours? Having actually been to countries that were in civil war or revolution, the precursors to civil war, I'll try and keep it light. I saw the exact same thing. I'm in Egypt during a revolution, and we took a car to Heliopolis and went to the mall and went shopping. And we went to and got fast food. And everyone in this mall was acting like nothing was going on. Yet their country was embroiled in revolution. People were being shot and killed in the streets. The military then went out and started massacring Muslim youth, students. But what can a person do? They have to carry on with their lives. They have to get food. They have to bring food home. This is what I see now in the United States. We know what happened. We know what they're doing. We know who was involved. We know what's happening with January 6th. We know what Merrick Garland is doing. It doesn't matter that he's the attorney general. All that matters is the Democrat corporatist establishment is willing to wield power. They're willing to smack a person down with their cudgel and beat them into submission. And the right is incapable and unwilling to protest even. I think things are changing. And I do think that although the night is always darkest before the dawn, as they say, I think we come out of this victorious. Because what happens, and this is scary, I think what happens in the United States will be somewhat different from what we see in other countries because people are unwilling to fight so aggressively, except for the far left. I think what happens is regular people get so angry with the corruption, they elect a strong man. They elected Donald Trump. And then Donald Trump comes in and starts locking people up. That's what we need to happen. I don't care what Durham says. I demand that when Donald Trump be elected, he go in and start arresting people. If they have legitimate crimes they've committed, we start issuing indictments and arresting them. I don't care if you're a member of Congress, the Department of Justice, you name it. Intelligence agencies, IRS. I don't care if you're congressional staffers. Evidence of criminal activity, you get indicted. You're a congressional staffer and you trafficked false information, which led to advancement of, say, criminal prosecution that was knowingly false, lock them up. You lied to the FBI, lock them up. All of them. Fire the rest. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.